There's something that I absolutely need to talk about because the internet has been losing their mind these past couple of weeks, and honestly, I'm right there with everyone else. There's a rumor circulating right now, and I mean a proper rumor, not just some random person online, that we might actually be getting a full remake of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Switch 2. And the more I dig into it, the more I think this might actually be happening. Let me take you through everything we know, everything we think we know, and why. Even before this has been confirmed, I'm already so excited about this. So let's start with where it's coming from, because context matters. The original leak came from Nate the Hate, revealing on his podcast that Ocarina of Time is getting a remake, targeting a release in the second half of 2026 on or close to the holiday season. Nate the Hate has a solid track record with Nintendo things, so when he says something, people do pay attention. But then it got bigger. Fellow insider Special Nick jumped in on social media to back up the leak and expand on it, adding new details about the scale and the ambition of the project. And then, as if that wasn't enough, sources at Video Games Chronicle separately confirmed the story. That's when things stopped feeling like a fun rumor and started feeling like something real. Oh, and one more detail that just sent the internet into a frenzy. Special Nick also claimed Nintendo is preparing a limited edition Switch 2 themed around this game, which would be the first themed console in this generation. A Zelda Ocarina of Time branded Switch 2? I mean, come on. Now look, leaks are leaks. Nothing is confirmed until Nintendo says it is. But when you have multiple credible sources pointed in the same direction, you have to start paying attention. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. And this is a conversation I keep having in my head, because there's a massive difference between a remaster and a remake. And whatever happens here is going to shape the entire experience. A remaster is essentially a polished job, a better resolution, better frame rate, maybe some cleaned up textures. Think of Ocarina of Time's 3DS port, which, yes, it was a great game for its time, but it was still fundamentally the same game wearing a slightly nicer outfit. But a remake? That's a completely different beast. You're rebuilding the game from the ground up. New engine, new assets, potentially rethinking systems that don't hold up as well today. And based on everything that's been leaked, the details suggest this could be a completely ground up overhaul, as opposed to some kind of up-res remaster like the HD 3DS port. Special Nick specifically said when pressed, it's way more than just a 3DS style port in HD. There's even some whispers going around, though don't quote me on this, that the remake could be built on the version of Breath of the Wild engine. Just sit with that one for a second. Imagine Hyrule Field. Reimagined with that kind of scope and visual fidelity? I know, it's just speculation, but it's an exciting speculation. Will they change the story slightly, add content, or keep it sacred? This is where it gets really complicated. And I think it's really the most interesting question around this whole thing. Ocarina of Time isn't just a beloved game, it's the most beloved game. It's still the highest rated game on Metacritic, and the community's love for this has never faded. That's nearly 30 years of people calling this game a masterpiece. So the question Nintendo has to wrestle with is, how much do you touch something like that? There are two schools of thoughts here. On one side, you have people who want a near faithful recreation, keep everything that made the original special, but just make it gorgeous. Same story, same dungeons, same structure, just rebuilt for modern hardware. On the other side, you have people who argue that if you're going to remake it, really remake it. Expand the world, give side characters more depth, add new areas. From what I've heard, there was so much lore in that world that was always hinted at, but never fully explored. The scope of the project obviously remains unclear, with speculation split between a faithful one-to-one recreation or a more modern interpretation with expanded, free-to-explore design choices. And honestly, both approaches could work. What I hope, and this is just me, is that they keep the story completely intact. That story is sacred, but expand the world around it, more to explore, more to discover, more reasons to take your time. Because for people like me, who are coming to this game completely fresh, we want the full experience. We want it all. Quick side note for anyone who doesn't know, Master Quest was an alternate version of Ocarina of Time included in the later releases, featuring redesigned dungeons that were significantly harder. I think there's a really good chance this remake will include the Master Quest, which would be great for people who want an extra challenge after finishing the main game. It'd be a nice way to give both new players and veterans something to work with. Okay, now I really have to talk about the console thing because this is wild. Nintendo has a long history of celebrating major Zelda titles with special hardware. From the Skyward Sword Gold Wii Remote in 2011, to the Wind Waker HD Wii U in 2013, to the Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED in 2023. And now there's a rumor that the Zelda-themed Switch 2 would reportedly be released around summer 2026. Ahead of the game itself, though the leaker is unsure whether the game will be bundled with it. Based on how Nintendo handled Tears of the Kingdom, where the limited edition console didn't come with the game, it sounds like you'd be buying both separately. But here's the thing, for the people who haven't jumped on the Switch 2 yet, this could be the reason they do so. An Ocarina of Time themed console? That's definitely a collector's item. That's a reason to finally make the leap. Why this remake would matter so much to me personally, I've never played Ocarina of Time. I only played about 5 minutes of the opening on 3DS. But I felt like the screen was too small, so I didn't continue. Because at that time, I had gotten used to my Switch size screen. And I know, some of you are clutching your pearls right now. But here's the thing, I came back to Nintendo late, and I missed a lot of big titles. The Switch was my first console since the NES. Most people grew up with all the other consoles that you're well aware of. And rather than going back to play Ocarina of Time on an old console or through emulation or whatever, I just waited. I had this feeling or hope that eventually Nintendo would give it to us properly. And maybe that's finally happening. The idea of Ocarina of Time for the very first time, fully remade on the Switch 2, potentially with a beautiful Zelda-themed console in my hands, that's not just exciting, that's the kind of gaming moment you remember, the kind of thing you talk about years later. I've already had that experience with Xenoblade Chronicles, a game I picked up on a whim that completely took over my life, and obviously had it with Breath of the Wild, which made me understand why people love open-world games so much. Ocarina of Time feels like it could be that all over again, a game that changes what you believe games are capable of. The expectation from insiders is that the official announcement will come at a June Nintendo Direct showcase, which is right around the corner in gaming terms. So if this is real, and everything is pointing towards it being real, we should know officially within a couple of months. Nintendo is celebrating The Legend of Zelda's 40th anniversary this year, and a ground-up remake of the most beloved game in its franchise would be an absolute enormous way to mark that occasion. The timing aligns, the sources align, the hype is very, very real. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is 100% happening, because it's not confirmed yet. Leakers can be wrong, plans change, and Nintendo is famously secretive and loves to keep us guessing. But I will tell you that right now, in this moment here, this feels different. The sources are credible, the details are consistent, and the timing makes complete sense. Nintendo needs a monster holiday game, and Ocarina of Time is the most beloved game ever made. If this happens, it is going to be a big deal. And if you're like me and you've never played it before, I think we're about to be in for something very, very special. Let me know in the comments, are you a first-timer waiting for this like I am? Or are you a veteran hoping they do it justice? I want to hear where you're at. And if you want to keep up with everything as this story develops, subscribe so you don't miss when the June Direct drops. And fingers crossed, Nintendo finally makes it official. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.